Don't you turn against me.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
You're not with me, then you're my enemy. You turned her against me! You have done that yourself.
Release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
I hate you! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness! You were the chosen one!
Welcome to Who Shot First, Jordan.
Yes, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
It is great to have you on the show. You reached out to us through Twitter and are very interested to chat with us about certain topics that we've already chatted about.
Yes, or future topics. I'm just excited to talk Star Wars.
Or future topics. All right, then. All right. But I would love to hear your thoughts, as your initial DM and communication was about midichlorians.
Yeah.
What I've been noticing, I've been talking to associates and people who have listened to who are listening to my podcast, and they've told me as well that they have responses to my statements of in favor. I think it's mostly people saying my statements against midichlorians, that they are coming to the defense of midichlorians. So let it fly.
I think that's a very common thing now. Is I think over the years, and I think Clone Wars in general has been a big driving force behind a lot of people understanding midichlorians more, because they're seeing the difference between the living force and the cosmic force. Because that's really where I think the big thing started, was when we got Star Wars originally, and Obi-Wan gave us this big explanation of the Force. He wasn't going, oh, well, this is the cosmic. He wasn't going into these nitty-gritty details. It was just, hey, this is your first introduction. Here's what the Force is. And I think when we really got the details of what midichlorians are, I think people just automatically jumped into a state of defense of, well, this isn't what we were told before. And you really just have to stop for a moment and look at the two things and say, oh, at no point in Qui-Gon's speech does he say that midichlorians are the Force. It's merely a microscopic life form that is living symbiotically with every living creature, and it's what they use to study and communicate with the Force. And I know one of the big arguments that a lot of people have always had, and I think you both brought that up in that episode as well, was the concern of, well, now not everybody can be a Jedi.
Yep.
And I can definitely understand that from a point of view, but I don't think that the original trilogy really ever set it up to be believed that, oh, any random person could be a Jedi. There was always this idea of big fantastical adventures, and yes, throwing yourself into that is a great thing. But I think I was watching a couple of additional videos before this as well to kind of get just some other understandings and see what other people were thinking on it. And one of the things that somebody brought up with the different levels of midichlorians in people's blood and that kind of stuff is thinking of it in terms of like an economic starting point, or even like a racial starting point with some people, where not everyone is born with the same advantages in life. And it's not that is necessarily it's not necessarily a good thing, but it's also the way that life is. Yep. And understanding that, but not giving up on your dreams, is really, I think, the first step. Because there's so many people that we see throughout the Star Wars universe who, from what we know and have read about in books and things, their midichlorian counts aren't as high as some of these other people. Yet they're still able to fight with them. They're still able to beat them in combat because of practice and skill, or the correct fighting style, or their drive to be better. And I think that's really just the big thing with the argument against, or like defending the argument against midichlorians, is just saying that it's not the Force, it's just the way that the Jedi and the Republic have been able to understand the Force. It's that symbiotic relationship that like every living creature has with the Force. It's very similar to looking at like the circle of life of when you die, your body decomposes and your cells turn into the ground and the dirt, and it's fertilizer for more things to grow and be used. And that's just, I think, really where it really stems off of, and I think that's the biggest defense for it is it's not the Force, it's just how the Force communicates with living creatures.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest just kind of standard defense I can give for it. In general, I genuinely do like the explanation of, I think I kind of use this in our DMs as well, of how it's really how the Jedi were able to understand the Force, and the reason we don't get more descriptions and explanations in, say, the original trilogy for midichlorians is, I mean, just where would that have been inside the movies? There's not really a part that we could really have stopped and had Luke study them.
Yep.
But then also B, all that research, all of that science was gone. Even the religion itself was gone. The Emperor, or the Empire as a whole, spent so long trying to contain all of these stories of the Jedi that we see somebody about like 18, 20 years after events of Revenge of the Sith who don't even know who the Jedi are, or were, barely. There's people that lived in that time that were children at the time who don't know what the Jedi are. It's a very big galaxy, and containing that information to core planets was all they really had to do.
See, before The Mandalorian, I would totally agree with you. But now they're introducing midichlorians back again. So there is the history, the research is still there somewhere.
I mean, there was definitely in Legends. In Legends, I mean, Palpatine always was researching the Force, and even then dealt with transfusions and was trying to, before we even really had the idea of midichlorians, was trying to put his blood into clones to figure out how it would work and if he could transfer Force powers into another body or make himself stronger by getting other Force users. And so I think that idea has always kind of been there. I think putting a name to it was really one of the big things that scared people. But in this sense, what we're seeing in The Mandalorian, we're still kind of only seeing one specific sect of the Empire that's doing the research. Outside of this one facility, there's not really anything else happening. Overall, it does sound like there's probably more bases that they were testing and doing things on, but it's all kind of relegated to this one Moff. Like, Gideon is the only one that we really know of that has done any research on it, and it's probably passed down specifically from either Thrawn or the Emperor. And so it's still a secret thing, but there definitely are more people that know it. But yeah, I don't think that it's something that I don't think Palpatine was spending all of his time doing that. He was relegating a lot of that.
Okay.
But at least that's the way that I would justify it, or the way that I would see how that fits into the canon.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely see that argument of like, well, if more people know about it, is it really that secret and things like that? But yeah.
Okay. That's very interesting. Kind of, yeah, what I've already tried to bring up, at least in the podcast.
Yeah, no,
you definitely
it's
very good to get somebody who actually believes this stuff, because that's one of the reasons I'm having you on the podcast. And it's just another way for me to, I'm listening to more podcasts on Star Wars, and I'm getting more and more frustrated with the fandom because people can't, I don't agree with the midichlorians, and you do. And it's like, we can have a simple conversation like this. Like, to me, this is what my podcast is all about. Of like, let's just talk about it.
Just being able to talk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Be like, okay, that's your opinion. You have researched it really well, and it makes sense. I personally, I would say there are other things more, and it's only personal to me, of like, I like the religion part of it. And to me, midichlorians make it less of a religion. And like, that's fine that both of us agree to that.
Exactly. And that's why, that's one thing I like about it is that I think midichlorians make it so that you can have both sides of that.
Yeah.
It gives you that, oh, well, at one point they thought it was more of a scientific thing, but now they've gone away from all of this study. And now, because like that's where we see Luke in The Last Jedi, is we see him where he doesn't want to study the Jedi tradition. If anything, he wants to. He'll learn some of the old texts because it's back to the living force idea.
Right.
And where the first thing he does when he starts trying to train Rey is he goes right into the balance of things and how the Jedi used the Force as essentially they were trying to control it, and nobody owns the Force. And I think that is where we really saw the fall of the Jedi, was just the fact that they had this idea that they were the wielders of the Force. They controlled it.
Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, that's the main reason I think Qui-Gon was not on the council, was that he was focused on the living Force and not the idea of the cosmic Force. And I think that's where we see Luke at the point he is in The Last Jedi.
Yeah. And that's where I'm more on board with midichlorians now than I was in the past, because I can look at it, and it was brought up to me actually by my friend Shamim, the guy I interviewed earlier, where it's because he's a very, very big fan of the prequels and midichlorians and everything, and he brought up of like it's similar to like we are now, of where we're focusing on the combination of science and religion. Yeah. And so maybe the Jedi or whatever, maybe it's related to the Force, but not like a huge part of it. And like they're focusing too much on like the midichlorians when there's other pieces to it. And so I really like that part. And so I can relate to that more. I'm losing a little bit of my, not faith in that, but of like my gelling with that, with the introduction of midichlorians into the Mandalorian, but
and seeing what they're essentially planning on doing with the Dark Troopers.
Yep, and with the Dark Troopers and everything. So we'll see how that goes. I'm a lot more open to Star Wars in general than I used to be, because I will fully admit, I think I admitted on the podcast, like I used to be that terrible fan of like, you are a horrible person for liking. Yeah, no, it's like I used to be that guy, but now I'm just like, no, this doesn't help anybody. Like,
exactly. Yeah, I still catch myself doing it sometimes, and I try to be like, oh wait, no, that was mean.
Yeah,
there's no point in that. Let's try to. Here's my opinion on it.
It's one of those weird things. I think it's also part of like that's a big piece that I like about the podcast that I'm learning, is that everyone says that like the fandom changed and now it's broken. What I'm finding is that it was not always super great.
No.
Because like I'm finding that like everyone's like, oh, Leia was always a great character. And because we're going to do some episodes on her eventually. And I'm finding like, yeah, the nerd boys back in the day hated her. She was mean and just talked down to Luke and Han, and that they're important and she's not, and she's supposed to be rescued. And I'm just like, why do we always think that everything's great? And like, and I mean, Attack or Empire Strikes Back, what many consider to be the greatest movie of all time, a lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah, no, that was a big thing, was that a lot of people didn't like how it I mean, especially how it ended. But then also just how it turned out in general. They were just confused and like, wait, what happened now?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the amazing things about George Lucas's work is he's insane.
He is. Like, okay, I'm so like, oh, thank you.
Like he has all of these fantastical ideas, and he puts them down and everybody goes, what? And then something happens throughout the course of your life and things connect, or somebody like Dave Filoni comes along and starts connecting dots, or the people, I'm Kazdan, and I'm trying to remember who else helped with the Empire, but like,
oh yeah,
he needs people to
guide him and help him.
Yeah, to put things in place where they should be. Because he has all these ideas. And I think that's what's so amazing about the prequels is I was able to understand so many of those little nuances that I think were so interesting and so got so much more depth once they made the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And so some of those ideas, like the whole Duel of the Fates thing that Dave Filoni talks about on the Mandalorian
the
episodes thing.
Yeah, the gallery.
I've always I thought everybody knew that. Like I thought his opinion that he was saying, I thought that was the norm. And I found out so many people didn't get that. They didn't see the big thing. They just thought, ooh, cool fight. Yeah. They didn't get how important Qui-Gon was to Anakin's life, or how much this impacted him by having Obi-Wan train him instead. And just all of these different things that I thought were normal.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the Clone Wars did for a lot of people in putting Dave Filoni there to guide people through that journey into this is what George is thinking. And it's just one of those things where George Lucas is an insane person, but nobody else could create what he does.
Yes.
Yeah, there's definitely needs to be something to put him where he belongs.
Yes, and that's where I will say, I think he's insane. I completely agree that he has fantastical ideas, and that's why I personally think the idea of the prequels are really good, and I think it could have been, and that's where I differ with a lot of people is with Shamim for instance.
Execution.
Well, is that he talks about. It's the potential. He's like, I love them for the potential that they are and what they could have been. And I'm like, I don't like them because of the potential that they could have been.
Yeah.
And so
that's very understandable.
And so it's okay, if you had somebody like Kasdan or somebody there to kind of help him through, write the dialogue better and just because there's pieces to those that you can look at them and go, these are bad.
Oh, as much as I love the prequels, there are so many things that could very well have been so much better.
Right.
And there's so many things that when you watch some of these behind the scenes clips, you see where that potential was that he held back.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Why do you want him to say things this way? And that's something where I had recently mentioned in a comment Twitter about Anakin and Padme's like love story that they go through in episode 2. Is he doesn't have the ability to show his feelings as well.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I think that's why George Lucas intentionally I think he intentionally made the dialogue as bad and cheesy as it was, because there's scenes where you can see the acting that Hayden Christensen has done in so many other roles where he plays that angsty teen style, and there's this weird quality that isn't in his other roles.
Yeah.
And I think it's a genuine matter of George kind of beating it into him that no, he's this awkward person. He doesn't have this ability to be this cool, charismatic. He's not evil. Anakin was never an evil person. He was this nice little kid from Tatooine who wanted to be more and wanted to save people, because that's what happened to him. He got this opportunity at 10 to go see fantastical things and become this amazingly strong person who can now save lives. And he's constantly being told at every turn, no, stop. No, what are you doing? Don't use that power. He's constantly being told to not.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that whole love story comes in, is he's kind of saying all of those things that he's had bottled up for 10 years. And it's not a healthy relationship at all, because it's that thing where we're seeing in today's society where you have these people on the internet who obsess over a streamer or a musician.
Yep.
And then they go off and they make these crazy blogs about them and they obsess. And it's those are the things that those people write. It's this I dreamt about you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, I think, what that was supposed to convey.
I will agree that I think it was deliberate. I think from everything that I've done research on George, I have a very complicated relationship with him. I
think everybody does.
Yes, but what I've found is that, like, even back in the original trilogy, he's very wordy. Like, he again, I completely agree with you. Like, he doesn't know how to show, he knows how to tell. And so a lot of like what we see, and we actually talk about this in our dialogue episodes and stuff like that, of like his when Anakin's so mad, is just like, I killed them all and everything. He's like, he's telling us way too much. He should not be telling us this. Like, but George doesn't really know how to word those.
Yeah.
Word that or show that without telling it. And
okay, yeah.
And I mean, even Mark Hamill has said George is not an actor's actor. He is very much like, let's fix it in post. Like, just say the lines and I'll fix it. So I think it's, again, I agree with that. Yes, he's a very fantastical person. Now, I will personally say that I think a lot of the dots that people get, that the connect and stuff like that, I don't think they were originally there.
Intended?
Well, there are certain
things that people found.
For sure. Like Midiclorians, I think, are for sure thing, because like I've done research and he had those back when he first wrote everything.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of stuff, and not to give too much away, but there's certain stuff in the prequels that everyone like headcanons. And they're like, this was all intentional. This was so perfect. George is like the most mastermind of all masterminds. I'm like, I don't think so.
No, I don't.
I think it just happened, because if it is intentional, it's done horribly, in my opinion, because I don't catch up on. There's stuff that I didn't catch up on, similar to like what you're saying with like Qui-Gon. He doesn't make that emphatically clear. It takes Dave Filoni to explain that to a lot of different people.
Well, and that's where I think there are a lot of things that are intentional, but I think it is that matter of he doesn't know how to convey it.
Yeah.
Like, I think there is a combination of the two things happening, where there's a lot of things that people are making headcanon. I do this myself. I literally was saying something the other day to you about the whole Darth Vader bit.
Yeah, no.
And there's so many things like that are like, like there's no way that was really intentional. But then there are so many little things that we're finding throughout the years that you're like, wait, was that intentional this whole time? And I think there are a lot of things that sound insane in terms of like, there's no way he planned that out. But I think there are a lot of those things that he did, and he just genuinely didn't know how to
portray it,
put it on there. Yeah.
No.
And I think that I do think that is one of the biggest flaws with the prequels, is having him entirely in control versus like the other ones where he had other people working with him. But I also think that's one of the things that makes them so beautiful, is we just get that raw, unfiltered
George.
Like, yeah. And so there are so many things that, as new bits of canon come in through like the Clone Wars and everything that Dave Filoni touches, I think that's where we're seeing like where these connections are happening. And I think that's really helping people pull people back into the franchise that maybe fell out after they saw the prequels and didn't like them.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest group of Star Wars fans right now, are people who fell in love with the series around the prequel time and then is now getting back into it because all of the things that they couldn't quite understand are now kind of making sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I would say is, I think there's a lot of stuff, especially with Clone Wars, because again, I personally have not a relationship with it, but I am coming into contact with a lot of fans who think that Clone Wars are so like basically essential Star Wars. And I have seen them all, and I think there's certain episodes that are really good, certain episodes that are not. And I'm finding more and more people that are like, if you don't watch the Clone Wars, you don't know Star Wars. And that's where I'm getting into a struggle of like, you're gatekeeping. People have to watch whatever they want to watch, and to be like, you don't understand the Anakin Skywalker character if you watch the Clone Wars. That to me is like, if that's truly what George wanted, that's a failing. That's a failing in the movie.
Oh yeah.
If you cannot understand the character in the movie without watching these like hundreds of episodes. That's my opinion on it, because it's just like I'm fine if you like the Clone Wars and everything. It's great. Like
I completely understand that argument, and that's something that's interesting. Well, and not even just argument. I think that is a really good point of view where, like, yeah, you shouldn't need to watch that to do that. I don't think anybody needs to watch the Clone Wars to fully understand Star Wars,
right.
Or at least I don't think they should.
Yeah.
But that's I think one of those things where I feel like when I watched the Clone Wars, it only solidified the portrayal that I had of Anakin in my head.
Okay.
And helped me. Like I always saw the battles that he went through between episodes 2 and 3. I saw how he became this jaded person just from the way that Obi-Wan treated him in episode 2 to the way that Palpatine was so nice to him in episode 3. Yeah, like you saw the manipulation happen there. You saw how he used real things that the Jedi were saying.
Yeah.
And just put that right back into the perspective that he wanted. And I've always kind of understood that, but I know there's a lot of people that didn't. And so that's one of those things where it's weird because I think the prequels, like in my mind, they stand alone by themselves and they fit within that storyline.
Yeah.
But I know so many people that didn't get it until they saw the Clone Wars. And so that's one of those things where, like, I don't want the Clone Wars to be mandatory, and I don't think that it is, but I do think there are a lot of people that it kind of is mandatory for, just in the sense of if they want to understand it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just one of those weird things where he just genuinely didn't know how to tell the story the way that people understand it.
Yeah.
And that's a big downfall of George that, I mean, we're seeing in so many interviews of, this is my way. This is what I'm doing. This is my Star Wars. I don't care what anybody else says.
Yep.
This is the movie I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm torn on that too, because personally, that's what I like in filmmaking.
Yep.
I like seeing somebody who has this idea and just says, no, I'm doing what I want. But then also you're like, but it might not be right.
Yeah.
But then it's the same thing as like looking at an artist and saying, no, that's a bad painting. It's like, but it's good to them. Like, it's one of those weird things where, like, how do you truly like say somebody's work is good or bad in that sense? And it's impossible to truly, I think, put it into any real perspective for everyone to grasp. Everybody has different opinions on it.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what we're starting to learn.
Yes. And I will say, like, it's going to be down the line, probably like a summer event, but we are going to be doing multiple episodes on George Lucas, the man himself. Because,
yes.
Because of statements like, yep, it's mine. It doesn't matter. Yep. Yeah. Like that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting. He's a very interesting guy. And yeah, there's just so much more to talk about with him. And
yeah, I don't think anybody could ever say everything there is to say about George Lucas.
No. I will just say that I think I am hopeful for my podcast to show his good side, but also to show that, because every podcast I've been listening to now since like Star Wars has had its resurgence is like George Lucas is amazing and can have no fault. And
he has so many faults and so many flaws.
Like he has quite a few.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
everybody does, but like, and that's where I have been struggling. And I even say, not to dive too deep into this, but like I'm struggling with that with Dave Filoni as well. It's just everybody.
Yeah, it's so easy to say Dave Filoni is amazing. He's amazing. Look at what he's done.
Because I will say right now, like, we're going to do later episodes about her too, but like everybody's saying like, get rid of Kathleen Kennedy and put Dave Filoni in there. And I'm just like, no. Like, maybe that's a good idea or whatever, but he still has problems. There's issues that he has, but nobody likes to look at them because of what he does is so fantastical, so amazing that they think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool. I think what he's doing is really good. Like, I love Rebels. I'm liking The Mandalorian. I will say the first season for me bugged me because it was so serious.
Yeah. Well, it was just so much of a Here's like it was all filler.
Yes,
It's
yes.
really what it was. Which
according to Dave Filoni, there is no filler. Ugh.
Honestly, I almost didn't want a real story from Mandalorian, if that makes sense. I kind of liked the idea of we're just getting random stories through the galaxy.
Yep.
But now that we're getting like an actual timeline and storyline and where it's going to lead to in the different series that we're going to get eventually from this, I can't be mad. I'm happy.
Yeah. And that's where I would have said if it had started differently, I would have totally been in that court. My issue was that like it started, it gave you like
with the child.
It gave you the child and was like, okay, so here's the plot, and then now we're going to ignore that plot for like 4 episodes. And do that.
That's very fair.
So that was my problem with it. If it was just like he's going to run around and do stuff, I would have been totally in for it.
Yeah, like if he found the child in an episode and then gave him away to somebody in another episode,
or something or something along those lines, like that would have been better for me. But it was just the constant side mission. It was basically like the video game of I have a main mission, but I'm going to keep side missioning to it.
It's like if Resident Evil 4 had, was it Claire, I think her name was, for the entire game.
Yes.
Like you're constantly babysitting somebody.
Yeah. So, but this season it started off a little slow, but has turned in.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. Yeah. How do you feel about Boba?
Oh, so great and bad. Like there were so many cool things, but yes, there is also that aspect of I managed to listen to your episode today actually before this.
Awesome.
And yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that like if he has actually been living on Tatooine for the last like 6-ish years, why would he have gotten bigger?
Yeah.
Like maybe more muscly, maybe, but like if he's training or something every day, but like he genuinely just got fatter, which again isn't a bad thing in terms of like who the character is or anything. I don't care about that.
No, yeah, I agree.
I care about the lore of if he's been sitting on Tatooine for 6 years. That makes perfect sense. I was like, how does that work? Like your argument was like, but other than that, watching him beat the crap out of the stormtroopers with the Tusken Raider style staff was maybe my favorite thing of the series so far. Like that was so cool. And like when he does that jump move that we see the Tusken Raider essentially do on Luke earlier, just with less jump. And like it was so cool because that's implying through just choreography. It's I guess and set design, or costume design. It's essentially implying that he's been training and living with Tusken Raiders at some point. Like, that's a really cool concept, and it would make sense as to how he's managed to survive on Tatooine for 6 years.
Right.
So I and as soon as he got into the armor, you were just like, that's Boba Fett. Like he looked comfortable in the armor. All the movements looked natural. Like it was so cool to see, because everything you watch Mando do, when you're watching him, there's this aspect of it doesn't look right, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh no, it totally, like I have had that exact, like whenever he's running or something, like
when he's fighting, it's like choppy. And I think I hate to do this again, but I think it's intentional, and I think it has been. Because I don't like I think it's one of those things where they like he is a foundling. He's been in hiding for such a long time, and then now he's kind of out being a bounty hunter, but he's really getting by on the fact that reputation of being a Mandalorian and his armor. I don't think there is this natural affinity to fighting and combat, and wasn't trained as heavily or thoroughly as Boba Fett was. And I think that showed off so well in how they did that. And I think we're only going to see him improve in his combat as the series goes on. Because I even feel like and maybe it is just an actor flaw in that, but because like I feel like even the other Mandalorians that we all saw on was it the third or fourth episode? Yeah, Bo-Katan, all of them looked natural, I felt too.
They naturally flow with the armor, and because he just seems it. I've actually been thinking about that. It's like it just looks so weird.
It's just
like
odd.
Him running in like his cloak, his cape. I was just like, he does not need this cape. Like it's especially in last season when they were on Tatooine, like when he was running around and like jumping with the cape. And I'm like, this is weird. Why is he doing this? Like,
and I think that's something we're gonna get at the end of the series. I think he'll either truly feel and be a Mandalorian and he'll look comfortable, or he'll be out of the armor at the end of the series. I think it's going to be one or the other, because I think that's what they're building to, is just the fact that like this series is the Mandalorian, but he's not. He is and he isn't at the same time, and I think that's what their idea is here. I think it's a trick title in the fact that like, yes, he is a Mandalorian. He was brought in. He's a foundling, but he's not really a Mandalorian. And I think it shows in that he's constantly trying to live by this creed, but now he's kind of understanding, oh, maybe that's not actually what this is. And I think,
like maybe I was a member of a cult.
I think we're going to actually see him like fully understand that he's a part of a cult, and that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
As a former Jehovah's Witness, that's going to be interesting to see, because growing up as a child, I was raised that way. And so like, there's a culty vibe there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm really excited to continue to listen to your podcast. Honestly, I'd love every episode so far. It's been really fun. And I find myself actively, like I listen to it while I'm at work, and I have to like, I'm struggling to not just go straight to Twitter and like talk every time, but I still like jump back in and out. And I need to start waiting until you finish episodes, because you do address so many of the things that I tweet you about at the end of the episode.
Yep. At the end, like because we usually cover like the negatives or whatever first, and then we'll go into the positives, and because I'm trying to give both sides.
And I think you're doing.
It's gonna get a little better now. I think it's gonna get even better now because Ethan and I have been both kind of on the same side of most things so far. Now we're gonna dive into Clone Wars.
Okay.
And Ethan likes the Clone Wars a lot, and I'm on the fence, and so not so much. So I think it'll get a lot better. Sarah, my special correspondent, is going to be coming on more often, and she'll be combating against me. So with the Clone Wars and stuff like that. So
perfect.
I think we'll get a more balanced way of going through it. So
no, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to hear some of the stuff you've kind of teased a little bit about. Like, I'm excited to hear more controversies inside of the original trilogy, because that's where I think people turn such a blind eye to. Like, yeah.
It's very interesting. Yep, like we'll get there. We're working our way through.
Yeah.
But we'll get. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on. We'll maybe get you on an actual episode sometime.
I would love to. Yeah. If there's anything you ever want me to chime in about, just let me know. I will gladly jump in. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds great, man. Thanks for chatting, and we'll keep in touch. You can find us on Twitter at Who Shot First Pod. That's Who Shot First Pod. And you can find us on email with whoshotfirstswpod@gmail.com. That's whoshotfirstswpod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and never tell us the odds.
Never tell me the odds.
People are counting on us. The galaxy is counting on us. Solo, we'll figure it out. We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works. Oh, really? You're cold?
Don't you turn against me.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
You're not with me, then you're my enemy. You turned her against me!
You have done that yourself.
Release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.